You are listening to a Clarkesworld Magazine podcast. I'm your host and narrator, Kate Baker. Welcome to the third story for the month of November 2025, issue 230. I hope this podcast, along with all of our podcasts, find you as well as can be, all things considered. I want to thank you for taking the time to spend with us today to listen to yet another story. And you know how we do these stories, and we do the nonfiction, and we are able to bring you the art and this podcast? It's by your support. So if you've gone to patreon.com/Clarkesworld, if you've gone and bought a subscription or checked a few bucks our way via a donation, you are what helps bring all of our worlds and all of our characters and all of these stories alive. So thank you. We have a long one for you for the third story, and it is titled The Apologists and is by Tade Thompson. Tade Thompson is best known for his books Rosewater and The Murders of Molly Southbourne. His background is in medicine, psychiatry, and social anthropology. He lives and works in the United Kingdom. He is a winner of the Arthur C. Clarke Award for Best Novel and a finalist for the Hugo Award for Best Series. So, my dear listener, I hope that you can sit back, relax, and let me tell you a story. 1. The Murder. Chapter 1. A dual-carriage road descends from a flyover bridge in Thamesmead, bearing sluggish traffic on both sides. From inside bus number 229, a woman looks out of the large windows and thinks the other vehicles look like toy cars. For all she knows, the 229 itself looks like a wind-up toy to the rest of the traffic. The sky above is a uniform gray canopy, cloudless, and at no risk of being considered a harbinger of good weather. A little girl sings. Each little flower that opens, each little bird that sings. On one side of the road, the brutalist architecture of a sprawling housing estate appears, with its endless concrete walkways connecting the forbidding buildings. The ground floors are replete with rows of garages, some doors the mauve of old blood and covered in desultory graffiti and decals saying no parking, as if anybody would. A line of ash trees separates the road from the buildings like a courtesy. The girl, whose name is Chelsea, continues. He made their glowing colors, he made their tiny wings. On the other side of the carriageway, identical scattered red brick two-story houses soften the view, social housing with pretensions to suburbia, as if correcting for the brutalism. The trees that line the side are willows, English oak, and silver birch, in no particular order, like an afterthought. The 229 shifts on to a bus lane with caution signs, warning of school children, zigzagged white lines on the street where traffic passes schools. In the seat closest to the door, the woman, B, in her 20s, with short-cropped brown hair, stares out the window like she shouldn't be here. Beside her, Chelsea, her 4-year-old daughter, does the singing. The 3 other passengers are all wrapped up in their own thoughts, one staring into the middle distance, one asleep, gentle snoring, with drool, one reading a paperback with murder in the title. B has a book in her bag but can't be bothered to strain her eyes. Nobody with headphones or any other kind of portable music. So it is at least peaceful. Except for Chelsea singing, that is. The cold wind in the winter, the pleasant summer sun, the ripe fruits in the garden, he made them every one. B ruffles Chelsea's hair. Shh, inside voice, darling. But she only half means it because the girl positively glows when she sings, and that's an antidote to a day as grey as this. At a bus shelter on Thamesmead Street, the 229 approaches and slows to a halt with a hiss of hydraulic brakes. Yellowed posters on the plexiglass for defunct government initiatives on the shelter. Half-assed graffiti, like the artist didn't care and just made marks with no message. Or maybe that is the message. One panel shattered a long time ago, no broken glass on the pavement. Every lamppost has the exact same party invite sticker. To this, B and Chelsea disembark. All things bright and beautiful, All creatures great and small. Chelsea skips ahead, voice rising. The neighborhood is safe, and Bee feels no threat to herself or her child. There's no reason to, since they keep to themselves. The foyer of the dim two-bed flat, dust motes fly. The mail waits on a pile on the floor below the letter flap. The afternoon sun is barely visible through the door panels, but its light falls on two toys on the floor. One doll, one plastic robot on its side. The click-clack of locks, the door swings open, and Chelsea dances in. I'm hungry, but I don't want toast with peanut butter on it because I don't like it, Mummy. Bee smiles. Yes, ma'am, take your shoes off, me lady, and pick up your toys. Chelsea continues into the house, ignoring the toys, while Bee bends, picks up the mail, and sorts through it. The living room is dim, like the foyer. Chelsea comes up short in the open door to the hallway, standing still, staring at the window, eyes wide, perfectly still. Mum? In the foyer, Bee is opening mail and reading. Mummy? Bee says, Yes, darling, no peanut butter. She screws up her face at junk mail and sets it aside. Mummy! Bee drops everything and runs into the living room. Bee bursts in and clutches Chelsea, who points toward the windows. There's a man-shaped silhouette outlined against the blinds. Bee shoves Chelsea behind her. Her heart thumps like a marching band, and she wonders if she can get to the phone. Who are you? How did you get in here? Bee hears a ringing in her ears as the curtains flap gently around the figure. I'm going to call the police. Nothing from the man. He doesn't move or acknowledge anything. Bee whirls to Chelsea. Go to your room, and the figure lunges forward, curtains and blinds flowing around it like a membrane. Both Chelsea and Bee scream. The figure crashes into Bee, and they both smack into the floor. She gasps as the figure's weight forces air out of her lungs. Even as she feels the sting of bruised ribs, Bee can't quite believe this is happening to her. She has a sense of being above it all. The pain isn't real. This man isn't real. Chelsea is real and is frozen to the spot. Chelsea, run! Chelsea sprints out. The thumbs of her footfalls fade, and a door slams somewhere in the house. A part of Bee is grateful that her child would escape. The figure rises over a winded Bee. He disentangles himself from the linen, free of the drapery. It's clear this is a man, although cloaked in shadow. A pipe drops into his hand from a hiding place up his sleeve and lengthens. When it's about a foot long, he clenches a fist around it. The pipe rises and falls. Wet, meaty impact. Bee cries out a couple of times, but is mostly silent. The pipe glistens in its rise and fall. The liquid looks black in the dim light, and as the pipe arcs upward, elongated drops break free and spatter the wall and ceiling. The man stops, breathing heavily. No sound or movement from Bee. He straightens up and watches her for 1, 2, 3 seconds. He is sure. He steals away to the foyer and looks toward the hallway that leads to the bedrooms. He steps on the plastic robot, crushing it on his way to the bedroom. The toy, deformed, begins to slowly expand back to its previous shape. The man comes to Chelsea's door, which is garlanded with stickers of little hearts and flowering vines. The man strokes the lintel with tenderness and takes a step back. He crashes into the door, and the wood rends as the frame gives way. He enters the room, and Chelsea screams. She calls for her mother. With one crack, Chelsea's voice is cut off. The cracks continue. The robot on its side fully regains its shape. Then, silence. Outside Bee and Chelsea's house, there are cops everywhere, delivered by 2 meat wagons with flashing lights. Crime scene tape seals off the high-rise entrance. An ambulance lingers, engine idling. Scene of crime officers, SOCOs, plod in and out wearing their protective gear. Neighbors and passers-by watch, shocked and chatting, with 1 or 2 of them talking to uniformed police. There's a hive of activity in the cordoned-off area. The uniforms part, and the building disgorges 2 stretchers, 1 adult size, 1 smaller, draped with white covers, and subsequently loaded onto the maw of the ambulance. Across the street, under a willow, covered in shadow, a man, the man, watches dispassionately. Once the ambulance door shuts, he turns and walks away. 2. The Detective. Chapter 2. A radio is on somewhere, and the voice speaking from it fluctuates in volume and clarity, sometimes muffled, sometimes louder, and competing with a rhythmic thumping. This is an artist's workshop, and the sounds come from a different part of the house. Here, on a table with precision tools and sketches, incomplete animatronics lead out of the back of a smooth woman's mask. An automaton, or it will be when finished. Beside it rests a music box crowned with a ballerina but not rotating. Looking over this tableau is a tall bookshelf with several tomes on art, architecture, painting, with 3 prominent coffee table books: The Architecture of the Square Mile, Beyond Wren and Hawksmoor, and Sketches and Conceits, all by Katrina Thatcher. On the opposite wall, 7 heads of various kinds, plastic and ceramic skin, men, women, children, all sit on a shelf. They look like the dead. They are automaton parts or draft for parts. Their fixed expressions look like people in Holbein's paintings. The shelf below has stuffed animals, foxes, squirrels, cats. The taxidermy is incomplete, and they seem like studies. Most have no eyes sewn in. The workshop is full of automata with intricate clockwork. Some look old but restored. Others are in the process of being built. One has a dip pen, and there are sheets of paper with elaborate signatures written on them. There's a large doll's house, also incomplete, but almost there. It's elegant with exquisite miniaturization. The rhythmic thumping continues with gasps and moaning. From the radio, a voice says, "Been another hour since the tiger was last seen. The London Zoo says it's a Sumatran tiger, about 8 feet, 200 pounds. Closest to the door, there's an incomplete diorama that looks vaguely like London, but with both retro and futuristic flourishes. The sound of lovemaking are louder now." On the wall beside the stairs hang 4 framed photographs. A woman, dark hair pulled back, smiling to the camera. A man in similar pose, longish hair, somber. The couple together, laughing. The last picture shows the woman alone in a police dress uniform outside, the legend identifying the place as Hendon Police College. Upstairs, the couple has sex in their bed. The thumping comes from the bed hitting the wall. They're the couple in the photograph. The woman, Eve Stevens, has her hair wet with exertion and tousled. The man, Dane Russell, is lanky. His hair is shorter than the photograph. The tiger is new to captivity and may behave in unpredictable ways. Do not approach. There's something stereotypical about the sex. The movements are regular like clockwork, and their faces are controlled, though not bored. Eve says, "Let's change position. I'm close." They change like it's choreographed. Later, Eve showers. She feels good, but wonders about Dane. Dane in the workshop is topless, in jeans, working on the doll's house. His concentration is total. He stares, changes something, then leans back, taking in the whole. Eve pops her head in the door, now in smart, casual clothes. "Almost done," she says. Dane nods. "Will it be ready for the birthday?" Dane nods. "All right. I'm off to work. Come and kiss me." Dane frowns. "I don't want to interrupt what I'm doing." He does not turn around, and Eve does not seem to be upset at this. It's not new behavior. "I'll see you later. Air kiss." Eve seems to be waiting for something. Dane says, "I made you breakfast. It's in the green container on the kitchen island. Have a good day, my darling." His speech is uninflected, but satisfies Eve. She smiles and disappears. Buses, taxis, and cars roar back and forth, raising a noisy cacophony on London's streets. Cyclists weave in and out like an accompaniment, passing shop fronts, business facades, high-rises of glass and steel, construction scaffolding, and news vendors. A few structures are completely sealed off in blue screens adorned with "Do Not Enter" signs. The underground station is strangely without people entering and exiting. There is no sign saying it's closed. People avoid walking on that side of the road. There are phone booths, some with people inside, talking on rotary coin-operated telephones. The streets are clean. Even the bins are empty. Not a speck of waste anywhere. Eve walks among the other commuters. Someone bumps into her and keeps going without turning around. "Arsehole," says Eve, but without venom. It seems like an automatic reaction that she barely registers. She thinks of Dane and the curve of his back and how it twists when he turns to look at her. She tries to think of a time when she's been happier, but fails. She makes it to a bus shelter just as a double-decker pulls up. Eve is at her desk in a noisy open-plan office in police headquarters, the tap-tap of manual typewriters machine gunning away. Rotary phones on each desk, some in use by detectives. She nibbles at a sandwich from a green plastic container open in front of her. In it, there's a further sandwich with surgical cut edges, an apple, and 3 red grapes, along with a carefully folded square of serviette. She's reading a typed report, but she senses someone edging toward her and is not surprised when a shadow falls over the paper. "What are you doing, Stevens?" Eve looks up. Her boss, DCI James Ashford, late 50s, stands over her. He's fleshy, but in a healthy way. Eats right, but doesn't make it to the gym, and enjoys a bitter. At least, that's Eve's assessment of him. She thinks he's happy at home. She smiles and offers the remaining sandwich. "I'm still on the Kumar thing, Gov. You want cheese and cucumber?" "God intended sandwiches to have meat or fish in them," says James. He drops a thin folder. "You're going to Thamesmead." Because I say so. I mean, there's a double homicide you need to attend to over there, but you're going to Thamesmead because it's where I want you." Eve opens the folder and forgets the sandwich in her hand. "You know, I'm not on rotation right now, and I wasn't yesterday." She says this absently. The folder has her attention, with its preliminary crime photos of a brutalized mother and child in a council flat. "Where's Montpelier?" James looks around. "Missing in action. Either sick or hungover. I don't know. Am I paying for his absence, boss? This is terrible for my morale, this is. And I have to lead this menagerie yesterday, today, and forever. I don't care about your pain, Stevens. Murder most foul in Thamesmead now." "Yes, Gov." She's looking at a 2-year-old driver's license photograph of B and some text that contains the 999 report and the first attending officer's impression. How did the passport photo manage to capture a soulful expression on the woman's face? Thamesmead, then. She chucks the rest of the sandwich in her wastebasket. There's only one police van left in front of B's tower block. Eve climbs up the stairs, even as broken crime scene tape drifts carelessly about. It's overcast, and there's a smell of burning grass on the breeze. B's door is still sealed. Inside, Eve walks past the toy robot and consults her file before heading down the hallway. Splinters of the door are on the floor. She steps between them. Chelsea's room is a mess of bright colors, with a profusion of dolls. A mirror with bright lights strung around the border is the centerpiece. There's a quilt duvet on the floor, otherwise very little disorder. On the carpet, an outline of where Chelsea's body must have fallen, a dark, wet stain around where the head would have been. Eve shakes her own head and feels heavy but not nauseated. She resists the impulse to touch the wetness. She leaves for the living room. The Sokos are still working but clearly winding down. The spatter on the carpet is marked and numbered. There's a body outline with an indicator for injuries in the head area. Someone is dusting the windowsills. "Murder weapon?" asks Eve. One of the Sokos shakes his head. "Checked inside and out. Team's been looking all the way to the marshes. Nada." "How did he get in?" Eve studies the window and the walls next to it. No scuff marks or damage. "No idea. These flats don't have back entrances. No signs of forced entry. No signs of tampering with either the door lock or the latch." "No need to tamper or force anything if he already had the key," says Eve. "Why would he have a key?" I can see why they keep you in the lab. He'd have a key if he's a former lover, maybe even the father of the child, which is almost always who kills women. Former partners. I'm off to see the bodies. Eve spins and leaves the Sokos to their grim task. Chapter 3. Eve follows the bodies. She arrives at an office block in central London with a shiny brass plate announcing the names of the coroner's list pathologists, qualified and approved by His Majesty's government. She spots a name, Dr. Robert Talbot, MBBS, FRC pass. Pedestrians and cyclists pass, but otherwise there is only the occasional car horn, a quiet bubble in this cul-de-sac. Eve buzzes and is allowed in. In the autopsy room, a man in green scrubs, Bob Talbot, mid-50s and portly, washes his hands. Behind him, there are two bodies on slabs, a woman and a girl, Bea and Chelsea. The autopsy is complete and the bodies are tidy, though empty of internal organs. Bob is proud to have finished them so quickly, and he dreams of an early lunch. Eve comes in. Dashing Dr. Bob. Bob smiles. Eve, don't call me that. Eve is wearing blue scrubs. She looks at the bodies with sadness, but she's seen the dead before and isn't nervous. Even if I come bearing gifts? Do you have gifts? No, but the principle stands. There are conditions under which I can call you Dr. Bob. What do you want, Eve? I'm busy. I have mother and child questions. I'll supply my report to the coroner. You can get it from their office. You know that won't work for me. Time is crucial in the first 24 hours. Really? I'm so lucky you told me that. In my 24 years of forensic pathology, I've never heard that. Bob. Fine. Blunt force trauma to the head. The mother first, then the child. How do you know? Bob busies himself putting tools away and disposing of tissue samples. Transfer. Mother's blood and child's wound. The murder weapon was likely a length of pipe. Mother exsanguinated. The child died of cerebral hemorrhage. Tragedy. Anything from the assailant? A spider crawls on a surface to Eve's side. It catches her eye. She grabs it and slips it between her lips. She feels the juice burst into her mouth as she bites into it. Well, I can tell you he hated her. 27 direct blows to the head. 5 misses, but you can see their indentations in the carpet on crime scene photos. Bob shakes his head. I can sense you have no biological material from him. He was careful then. Well, what? It's going to sound odd. Just spit it out, man. I don't think he was careful at all. I think he didn't have biological material that I could find. I'm sorry. What? I found some stuff that looks organic, but I've never seen anything like it before. I sent it to the National Lab. Dr. Bob, you're confusing me. Do you have material from the assailant or not? Not, my darling. At least, that's my official answer. Unofficially, maybe. I'll let you know. Maybe he used some chemical compound on his skin. Oh, fair enough. Call me when you have something. Eve spits out spider legs and moves to the door. When you're going to leave Dane and run away with me, says Bob. Ask me again, dashing Dr. Bob. You never know. You're wearing me down. An elaborately worked door in the vestibule of a middle-class home. Doorbell goes off, slicing through the hum of conversation coming from deeper in the house. Through the frosted glass panes, there are shapes of 2 people outside. A woman in a flowery dress, Sucharita, flutters to the door. She is attractive and ephemeral. Come in, my beautiful unicorns. Sucharita unlocks the door and breaks into a smile. Eve and Dane are outside. Dane holds the doll's house he was working on earlier, covered in colorful wrapping paper, crowned with a bow. Hey, Sucharita and Eve embrace, squealing. Dane keeps a straight face, businesslike. He wants to install the doll's house. Dane, welcome. How are we tonight? Says Sucharita. Dane smiles tightly but says nothing. Sucharita is used to this. Eve watches the interaction but doesn't step in. Where's the birthday girl? Sucharita gestures toward the stairs. Getting dressed or something. You have no idea how much I suffer from her caprice. They make their way through the house to a lounge, party sounds increasing, a large banner saying, Happy birthday, Alina. Balloons and other decorations all over the place. Some decorations have the number 8 on them. Tom Jones playing on a sound system. This is the only music and it plays on a loop, but this doesn't seem to bother anybody. 5 other smiling people wait in the lounge before Eve, Dane, and Sucharita join. Their collective fashion ranges from mid-90s to circa 2005. Khaki and plaid, chinos, Ugg revival, skinny jeans, etc. Sucharita melts into the arms of her wife Carol, who kisses Eve and nods at Dane. Eve was friends with Carol first and for years, but bonded with Sucharita better. Where can I set this up? Says Dane. Carol volunteers. Follow me. There's a TV, a cathode ray tube device with a long projecting back and a significant heat output. It looks like a tank. People converge around this, watching a news report. Multiple sightings of the tiger now. Police say most of the calls are hoaxes, and 17 were urban foxes. Who mistakes a fox for a tiger? Says Eve. Sucharita slips a drink into Eve's hand. A shot of a tiger in a cage appears on the screen. Authorities have said Londoners should not approach the animal. They shouldn't have brought them over from Africa, says one of the guests. Tigers aren't from Africa, says Dane. I think zoos are unethical anyway. The tiger is a person and has a right to be free. Run, Simba, run. Sucharita's voice takes on a higher note. I don't think Simba was a tiger, says Eve. And I don't think a tiger is a person, says the guest. Are they self-aware? Asks Eve. Apes are. Sucharita sips a drink. How do you know? There was a test. They recognize themselves in a mirror. Some apes. There was something about sign language, says Sucharita. Yes, I saw that. It was debunked. The apes were just copying their handlers. Can tigers sign? Dane looks up from the dollhouse. Tigers are animals. They're not human. Sucharita floats away and then returns with her arms around an 8-year-old, Alina, her daughter. Alina is pretty, sweet, and wide-eyed. Oh, look at my baby, says Sucharita. Eve looks Alina over. Is it just me, or is she taller? She is. Sucharita looks ready to burst from pride. Her hair is longer than when I last saw her, says Dane. Alina spots the dollhouse. Is that for me? Yes, from us. But Dane made it. Happy birthday. Alina examines the object, runs her fingers over it. Inside, the miniature people seem trapped, helpless, but those blank Holbein faces mute any distress. Dane walks over to help Alina. Sucharita slides her arm around Eve's waist. Alina squeals at something she discovers. Crouched to her level, Dane is attentive but unemotional, explaining the mechanisms in words and gestures. What's wrong? You're tense. Don't be tense. It's a party, says Sucharita. Eve hesitates. Case at work. I can't talk about it, but there was a child involved. I keep thinking about what birthday she'll never have. Alina laughs and places her hand on Dane's shoulder. Eve spots him stiffen. So does Sucharita. Is Dane going to be okay? He doesn't like to be touched generally, but I think Alina gets a pass. The next day, Eve is on a bench outside a sandwich shop, eating lunch. She looks into the middle distance, frowning slightly, contemplating something as she chews. She's trying to make sense of the crime. No signs of entry, let alone forced. Neighbors haven't noticed any man or woman loitering around. The murderer just walked in and lead-piped them both to death. That's the how, but why? Neighbors say the family was introverted, polite but sticking to themselves. No friends that Eve has been able to find. Without known associates, Where did one start such an investigation? Pedestrians move to and fro, workers on their brakes. A klaxon goes off. 3 blasts. The sounds seem omnidirectional. Unsurprised, Eve roots in her handbag. A man reaches deep in his pockets. The workers in the sandwich shop look under the counter. Eve slots earplugs into both ears, as does everybody else present. A second later, a loud, sustained, and distorted electronic sound drowns out everything else. Some modulation in the sound suggests it might be or once have been speech, but it has degraded so much that it cannot be understood anymore. Nobody is distressed. Everybody waits. Parents adjust the plugs in their kids' ears. The sound suddenly dies. People continue whatever they were doing beforehand, and Eve puts plugs in her bag. She takes a new bite of her sandwich. Could the attack have been random, stranger, homicide? Eve hoped not. Because if the assailant left no evidence, the case would not be a piece of piss to solve. Eve in front of a whiteboard in an impersonal office. She likes whiteboards full of possibility and erasable mistakes. No better thinking tool. She has drawn a diagrammatic representation of B and Chelsea's tower. 10 columns of numbered rectangles drawn on it. Each rectangle represented a flat. One is in red, the crime scene. There are crosses through some of the rectangles that have been canvassed. Eve puts a cross through a new number. She checks a list and dials a number on a rotary phone. Hello, my name is D.S. Stevens. A serious incident happened in the flat above you. I'm calling to see if you heard any... You didn't. The person hangs up so hard, Eve has to pull the handset away from her ear. Oh, very rude. She sighs, plods to the board, and crosses out another rectangle. A knock at the door, a welcome reprieve. It opens, and a messenger stands there. Stevens, he says. He seems a bit young to be using her surname. Yeah, that's me. He drops a pile of folders on her desk and leaves. Eve is puzzled and starts to open one when the messenger returns and dumps a new pile. Is that all, or... Oh, no. There's more. A third and fourth pile, then a letter before the messenger departs. Eve opens it. Detective, I hope you're doing well. I found similar cases with minor variations going back years. I pulled the files for you. See, I'm not just a pretty face, Dr. Bob. Eve smiles. Dashing. Eve picks a folder at random, sits down, puts her feet up, and starts reading. It's dark now. Eve rubs her eyes to get rid of the grit, but she refuses to give in to exhaustion. The piles are gone, except the one Eve is reading. The rest are on the floor. On the wall beside the whiteboard, autopsy headshots of women and girls, eyes closed in death, lacking the decoration of bodies at a funeral. Not pretty. Like the heads in Dane's workshop. They make Eve uncomfortable, but she wants to feel that until she solves the case, nobody should be comfortable while their murderer roams free. All of them look like Bea and Chelsea, more or less. Minor variations in the amount of hair, the shape of the nose, the chin, angle of the jaw, but not enough to matter. She hears a creak. Her governor is at the door. What case is this? Says James, eyes on the board. That's Thamesmead, Gov. Did a bomb go off? I thought there was 2 bodies. This is where Thamesmead leads. Eve watches a vein on his neck pulse. She imagines what horrors he has seen in his time and how he covers it up with a laconic facade. She wonders how she will cope when she reaches his age. What will all the murders and all the dead bodies take from her? So, you're saying you have a serial killer, says James. Well, it's not Harold Shipman, but... James steps closer and touches a few of the photos. He seems to be in a religious funk, and his voice takes on a tone of awe. I've heard serial killers select victims that look alike. Eve joins him. I know what you mean, boss. This is uncanny, though. They could all be siblings. James abruptly recovers and his usual tone returns. You can't do this alone. Come see me on Monday. He strides out without looking back. The door to Eve's house unlocks and opens into the hallway. Eve enters and drops her keys on the side. She is careful, quiet, but the weight of tiredness pulls her shoulders and neck down. She slips off her shoes and starts creeping up the stairs, but stops. The sound of trudging footfalls comes from the living room. Eve changes direction and appears at the door to the living room. Dane is pacing back and forth. He takes exactly 6 heavy paces in one direction, then 6 in the other. He is sweating, and there are dark patches at both armpits. Dane. You are late. He doesn't look at her. Shit. Yes, work got away from me. You're supposed to call. That's the deal. You call. You say, Dane, I'm going to be late. You've done something wrong. If you do something wrong, you should say sorry. You should apologize, acknowledge, apologize, atone. Eve edges close to him, but he doesn't stop pacing. He smells of paint thinner, glue, and what she thinks of as ozone from welding, all mixed with the musk of his sweat. You're right. I should have called to say I'd be late. I am sorry. I apologize. All right, baby. Dane stops pacing. His expression does not change, but he studies her face. I'm sorry. Eve tries to keep the fatigue off her face so that it doesn't mimic insincerity. I accept your apology. There's food for you in the oven. I'm going to shower. Dane spins around and leaves the room. Eve collapses into a wing chair and exhales. From somewhere, the tick-tock of a clock. 3. The Suspect. Chapter 4. In Dane's workshop, there is a new project in progress. On the west wall, there's a large, sprawling drawing of London's skyline, except its futuristic version, with towers and spires we've never seen, along with speculative Thames crossings. On a table, the beginnings of models of the sketch skyline lurk like plant shoots in a garden on a bed of scattered, incomplete pencil drawings. The floor is littered with pencil shavings. One of the clockwork mechanisms has malfunctioned, resulting in a faint but continuous tintinnabulation. There is also the sound of the bed thumping as Eve and Dane make love. Their movements are identical to the previous time, down to the gestures, moans, and entreaties. The bedside lamp is on, even though there's enough sunlight from the window. Eve enters the kitchen in a dressing gown and notices fresh-cut flowers with a handmade card on the island. How did he do that? She reads the card and smiles. As Eve makes her way to work, there are fewer people on the street. Newspapers at stands show weekend editions, and a bell rings from a distant urban church. Eve makes her way into the police headquarters through a revolving door. Not a lot of desks are occupied, and those present barely acknowledge Eve. James's office is empty as she walks past along a side aisle of the open-plan office. She opens the conference room where she has the photos on the wall. Then something catches her eye. A flashing light on the telephone on her desk. She drops her handbag and darts over. Hand set to ear, she presses the button. Dashing Dr. Bob says, I hope you have a pen, detective. Eve pulls open a drawer and digs for a pen. Dr. Bob, how do? Remember the substance I told you was at the crime scene and that we had no idea what it was? Well, I sort of put out a call to a group of amateur scientists that I belong to. Eve cradles the handset between her neck and shoulder, tangled in the cord, looking for paper. She makes a non-committal sound as she roots around. There's a bloke called Solomon Horton. Horton. I'll give you his number in a minute. He said he's seen that chromatological pattern before. His number is... Eve poised to write. Somewhat unexpected. Eve stands in front of a laundromat shop front with a closed sign hanging inside the glass. She checks the address against reality. Where has Dr. Bob sent her? Eve walks up and presses the buzzer. The door opens, and a plump man in his 40s with round glasses stands there. Eve shows her warrant card. Solomon Horton. I'm Detective Eve Stevens. We talked on the phone. Robert sent you, he says. He steps back and gestures for her to enter. I've been puzzled about that slime since I came across it. I like to test stains to see how best to remove them. Eve finds herself in the laundromat's back office. Slight chemical smell to the place, though not unpleasant. Clean and impersonal, it reminds Eve of a hospital. The office is sparse, the furniture wooden and uncomfortable. Solomon hands Eve a cup of tea and sits opposite her. He's not having one, and Eve clocks old stains on the saucer. She pretends to sip, but has made up her mind not to drink it. He doesn't look like a predator, but they never do. This business has been in my family for generations. We take pride in the service we give. Of course. So when Robert reached out, I was curious. Do you remember whose clothing it was you found the stain in? I do. Do you have contact details? An address? I do. Eve raised an eyebrow. Well? I'm not allowed to... Solomon. May I call you Solomon? Okay, I don't have a warrant, but I can get one. This is a murder case. I'm here on a Sunday, and I won't get overtime for this. In the time I spend disturbing a magistrate, filling out the paperwork, groveling, and making my way back to your fine establishment, more people might die. Do you want that? You want that on your conscience? Eve burps. She's in a car parked on the street watching the front door of a detached house across the road at the address Solomon gave her. She has heartburn. She can only eat junk food when she's away from Dane, whom she has diligently informed about the stakeout. The gas from fizzy drinks keeps bubbling up to the top of her gut. It's uncomfortable, but she loves the things that are bad for her. Carbon dioxide bubbled through sugar water. Genius invention. Terrible, but genius. The radio is on. Further sightings of the tiger suggest it might be circling back to the zoo. Is that likely, Professor? A streetlight illuminates the hedge and parts of the facade. The rest of the house is in darkness. There's so much Eve doesn't like about the case. She had asked for Bea and Chelsea's documents, but none were forthcoming. No passports or birth certificates. No father's name for the child. Lots of unknowns. The inventory of Bea's flat was unremarkable. No trail from that direction. It's like there are ciphers. Eve put in a request for immunization records for the child. She had been to her school. Chelsea keeps to herself and is no trouble at all. Nothing smelled right. That's a good question, Sarah. The zoo is where the tiger feels familiarity. It may have escaped looking for its quote-unquote ancestral lands. The smell would be urban. The smell of the zoo is probably closer to the smell of the jungle. The remnants of fast food packaging and chocolate wrappers lie on the passenger seat. Eve sucks a drink through a straw. She stops, burps yet again, shakes the cup. Empty. She tosses it in the back. Oh, in other words, it's going home? A man in a flat cap and coat approaches the door to the target house, unlocks it, and slips inside. He looks to be in his 50s and about 5'10", 5'11". The door slams behind him. Hello, stranger, says Eve. She didn't quite see his face, but it doesn't matter. She knows where he is and has no plans of losing him. A light pops on one of the windows of the house. Well, that's a simplification, but yes, it's going home. But I can't emphasize enough, it's dangerous. Stay away from it. Eve smiles and raises a radio to her lips. Dispatch, come in. Eve, expectant, standing over James at his desk. He's looking over her paperwork. Tell it to me again, the way you're going to tell the magistrate. It's Callahan, so you know she wants it simple. Eve takes a breath. Murders of a woman and her daughter in Thamesmead yielded an unknown chemical substance, call it X. We found 14 other murders of mothers and children that the pathologist thought was similar. Solomon Horton found X in a repeat customer's fabric. The customer's name is Storm Giuseppe. I sat on his home address and caught a visual. I went through all the files of the cold cases. On 6, there were descriptions of someone like Giuseppe by witnesses. I have someone sitting on his address now, round the clock. What do we know about Giuseppe? Nothing, Gov. He does not exist. He has no national health insurance number. He has no birth certificate, no passport, no voter registration. He has no family doctor, no prescriptions for anything. Giuseppe has no bank account, boss. He's a ghost, and I would very much like to have a word with him about the murders of women and girls. Judge Callahan's chambers are a profusion of wood and leather paneling. The judge herself is wizened, thin beyond belief, drowning in her robes. In front of her, Eve and the court clerk stand silent, Eve's hands respectfully behind her back. A klaxon goes off. The judge, Eve, and the clerk produce earplugs and insert them. The noise, irritating, loud, distorted, and electronic, goes on for a minute, then stops. They all pull out the plugs. The judge reads the last page of the warrant, takes a breath, and signs. Eve's face is blank, no reaction, but behind her, she makes a fist. Yes. An unmarked car with a plainclothes officer inside waits outside Storm's house, but in bright sunlight this time. An officer says, "Confirm, subject has not left the home." Indistinct static mixed with speech from the radio. "Oh, I can't bloody hear you, can I?" Eve in body armor strides past the unmarked car up to Storm's driveway. Behind her, an armed response team splits into two, one group going round the back of the house, the other standing by in front. As she walks up, Eve passes under an archway made of a trellis thick with creeper plants. The wooden front door is ornate with a brass wrapper. Eve knocks. "Storm Giuseppe, this is the police. Open the door." Some sounds of movement from inside. Eve tries the door and it's unlocked. She enters. She finds herself in a dark, narrow hallway, the vestibule. The front door drifts shut behind her. Ahead of her is another shut door with frosted glass panes, through which Eve sees movement. "Police in the house! Police in the house! Storm Giuseppe, we have a search warrant. Stay where you are." A voice like shattering glass from inside. "Eve. Are you Eve? You sound like an Eve." Eve stops, taken aback. Her blood feels suddenly cold. How do you know my name?" "Somewhat unexpected, isn't it? Just like you turning up. It was for me, Eve. Bye-bye." The movement beyond the door ceases. Eve reaches it, tries the door, locked. She pulls at her lapel radio. "Suspect is home. Breach! Breach!" Nothing happens. Eve turns around. There is no front door. In its place is a crude bricked-up wall with clerestory windows providing grudging light. "What? How?" She whirls and the second door isn't there anymore. Brick, sealed in. Impossible. Eve is walled into a short corridor with no way in or out. Her mouth is wide open, and she touches the wall to be sure it's there. She can barely think over the hiss of her blood in her ears. Mayday! Mayday! Officer needs assistance! Help!" Muffled sounds like there is a lot of activity outside, but no acknowledgement. Eve runs from one end of the vestibule to the other, like a trapped rat, panicked. "Get me out of here!" She slams her hands on the walls repeatedly. In her mind, unbidden images of concentration camps with linear gouges in the walls from fingernails of people trying to get away from Zyklon B. "Mayday! Anybody out there? Officer in need of assistance. Mayday! Fucking answer me!" Only static on the radio. Eve sinks to the floor, her palms throbbing. Time passes. Light fades. Sounds of activity outside. Eve has tried shouting, but nothing changes, so she waits. They know she's here, and there's nothing she can do to improve her chances. The radio does not get better. She has been thinking of Dane, of how he will respond to her going missing. Oh, who will take care of him? Sucharita. Dane would scold Eve for eating junk food, and she, in turn, would irrationally think what's happening to her is punishment for not sticking to their diet. The activity outside culminates in a loud crack. The wall behind her opens up as the teeth of a digger break through. Light floods in along with the sound of heavy equipment through a jagged hole, the cruel edges reminding Eve of a monster's teeth and an open maw. Officers and fire service personnel are framed in the hole. "Stevens, are you okay?" "In here," says Eve. She is trembling from the cold and the stress of it all. I'm in here." Eve sits near an ambulance on the curb, snug under a blanket, looking grim, staring at Storm's house. She has in her hand a steaming coffee. She's spooked and unashamed of it. Her mind cannot grasp what has happened, so she is not thinking about it, the way one averts one's gaze from something disgusting. A steady stream of uniforms going in and out of the house, bringing boxes of material. An officer stops. "Stevens." Eve keeps staring ahead. "Stevens." Eve looks at him startled. "What happened in there?" "I don't know. Maybe he drugged me. A hallucinogen in the air." She speaks mainly to herself. "What?" Eve rises, shrugs off the blanket, and hands the cup to the officer. All of those boxes go right to evidence for my attention. Nothing gets lost. Nothing gets misplaced. Hear me." She walks away. Eve, seated across from James, a question on his face, one she doesn't want to answer or even contemplate. "I don't know what to tell you, boss. I got walled in." "Yes. But how?" Eve looks out of the window. An airship floats by, trailing a banner. "Vote for a new London." What does that even mean? Eve doesn't have a fix on any of the candidates or their issues. They are the same each alternating year. More police on the street, fewer police on the street. The electorate can't decide. "I'm going to have to send an incident report," James says with regret. Eve looks back into the office. An incident report goes to faceless people with absolute power. The idea of it makes Eve afraid, even though she has done nothing wrong. She's alarmed, but also resigned. "I'm going to need a bigger space for this investigation." "It's yours. You want a partner? I can pull someone off." No, I need to do this on my own." "Montpelier is back, ye." "Montpelier's an idiot, sir. Nobody wants to work with him." What?" "When you came here, fresh-faced and wet-nappied from Hendon, I was the only one on the interview panel who wanted you. They were going to bounce you to fraud or some such. But I believed in you." She already knew this. He had told her many times. "Your point?" "Be careful out there. I am invested in your progress because it reflects my progress. Take help when it's offered, Stevens, and don't get careless." "Boss, I don't want a partner." "All right. Meanwhile, the basement is yours. Work your case out of there." Chapter 5. Outside an upmarket art gallery, there's a cutout of Dane in a suit, glaring, advertising a show. Dane Russell, New Visions. Inside, various works are displayed. The centerpiece is a vast diorama of London, but not as we know it. It's a futuristic, imagined London extrapolated from the familiar landmarks, like St. Paul's, the Gherkin, the Shard, Big Ben, Tower Bridge, and the MI5 building. Minor works are of monsters, animals, mutants, and humans, all moving with exposed animatronics. Replicas of classic automata compete with newer ones. A bust of Hephaestus overlooks a miniature bronze man. At least 7 automata sign names using dip pens. A clockwork rooster crows at intervals. A mechanical tiger roars. A dove flaps its wings and picks up a scroll of the Torah with its feet. It cannot fly. Dane stands among a small group of glitterati while Eve hovers around the entrance, nervous. Since being trapped in Storm Giuseppe's house, she has not been able to tolerate enclosed spaces well. Even public, brightly lit ones like this gallery. These are possibilities explored by Wren after the fire of London, but nixed by the various professional guilds. Conceptually, there is some debt to Zaha Hadid and Katrina Thatcher's more speculative work, says Dane. And the monsters? Asks a woman who looks to Eve like a critic, but also like she would gladly shag the living daylights out of Dane. We have to imagine those other than ourselves. Eve's eyes move from Dane to the diorama to the doorway. She's jittery. Every time someone comes in, she twitches. Her breathing is faster than usual, and the tension rises until she can't stand it anymore. She darts out of the door. Dane's eyes flick to her, then back to his fawning fans. Outside, Eve leans against the display glass beside the Dane cutout, hyperventilating. She gets a flash of herself trapped in the sealed corridor, desperately searching for an exit, panicking. Eve winces as if she is in physical pain. She twitches as she feels Dane's hand on her shoulder. She hadn't seen him come after her. Are you all right? I'm fine. She's not fine. I'm all right. She's not all right. Really? Dane accepts this at face value. To be supportive, you should be inside with me, either at my side or... That's true. I just wanted some air, Dane. I felt like I was suffocating in there. I'll ask them to adjust the air conditioning. Thank you. That would be helpful. Then you can be supportive again. He kisses her on the cheek, turns and darts back into the gallery. Something stilted about the whole interaction, but of course Dane struggles with large numbers of people. He needs her there to buttress his performance of social norms and cues. Eve stares at the cutout as if it is Dane. You're amazing, and I love you. Someone watches Eve from across the road. On a roof. Hand on a railing. Eve? Are you Eve? You sound like it. Eve heads back into the gallery. The watcher stays for a time, then slips away. 4. The Architect. Chapter 6. Heavy machinery pulls apart walls in the house of Storm Giuseppe. Each room appears to have no door and a coved ceiling, but the coves are made of an unknown material that is unbreakable with the tools at hand. Partial demolition is the only way to get in. There is an attic, but it's empty. Not even dust made its way in there, although the air smells of aftershave or some other artificial scent. Uncharacteristically for London houses, there's a crawl space, also sealed off. When they break into it, they find a library of files and notebooks. Investigators cart away boxes of material. Dane and Eve have sex as stereotypically as before, with no variation. Afterward, in the kitchen, Dane fusses over Eve, serving her a fancy meal. It's surgical, with a mise en place. Dane's a confident cook. Eve smiles, but there's a shadow over it. She's in the moment, but barely so. Storm Giuseppe is on her mind, along with his victims. Dane sits down opposite her, and they eat. Dane flashes a rare grin. Eve responds with a smile of her own, but her lips do not part, and her eyes don't join in. Eve's new basement room is a large, high-ceilinged space with exposed recesses for wires and pipework, boxes and documents all over the floor in untidy clusters. There's a radio on a shelf, although Eve doesn't like to work with music. She stands, arms akimbo, a dictaphone in her right hand, wondering where to start. She opens her first box. It's full of papers, unremarkable, so she sets it aside. She opens a second and a third and pushes them away. A fourth has books, one of them by Katrina Thatcher. She opens the fifth and reaches inside. She comes out with a plain blue plastic card, smooth with rounded corners. She flips it over and examines both sides carefully. The fuck? She brings the dictaphone to her lips. There's a card, maybe 3 by 2 inches. Plastic? 2 different shades of blue with a white strip dividing them. Look up Transport for London. She squints. And there's a symbol. I've seen it before. Eve stands outside an underground station. She holds up the card with the symbol of the London Underground visible. It matches that on the station facade. Nobody goes in or out of the station, but people walking avoid the area around Eve, as if she's become part of the structure, and whatever repels people has extended to encompass her. Eve walks with purpose to the entrance. She stops at the lip of the first stair that descends. She can't move, her whole body uncomfortable. Her discomfort increases with each passing second. She tries, her muscles trembling, and there is no barrier, but she cannot climb down the steps. She steps back easily. Her armpits are moist now. She puffs and puffs like an athlete, then she sprints to the entrance and leaps out into space, letting momentum carry her. She sails above the first 4 steps, but her legs stop functioning, and they tingle as she lands. She falls down the stairs, pell-mell, all elbows and knees rolling, all the way to the bottom. Eve picks herself up in pain, her clothes dirty. It is a concourse of some kind, and tickets are for sale, but for what? Dust in the air, tiles on the floor, arrows drawn on every surface but the ceiling. Eve looks around, trying to make sense of what she's seeing. Every nerve screams at her that she should not be here. She limps around. The ticket counters are unstaffed, and the machines are all dark, devoid of electricity. There are squiggly maps on the wall, and Eve recognizes some of the place names. Waterloo East, Clapham Common, Tottenham Court Road, Embankment. Is this a short way of reaching those places? The escalators are silent and still. Eve walks down them and ends up on a platform that overlooks tracks. The tracks flicker in and out of vision, hallucinatory and almost diagrammatic. None of this is real, or real enough. A train appears, equally like a line diagram, silent, blasting past the station, transparent. Eve reaches out a hand and the train passes through it with no feeling at all, not even a breeze. The hell is going on here? Footfalls behind her. She turns, and everything goes black. Eve is in bed, asleep. She opens her eyes suddenly and jackknives upright. She looks around, puzzled. How did she get here? She looks down at herself. She's not wearing the smart casual work clothes she wore to work. She's in a loose t-shirt and denim shorts. Her skin is clean. Dane? She steps out of bed and pads around barefoot. She glances at the clock and picks up the phone. She dials a number, the number for incidents, and waits until she hears a click on the line. I've lost time, she says. My name is Eve Stevens. A mechanical voice answers. How long? 8 hours. It's official. Carry on. A click as the line dies. Eve and Sucharita in a coffee shop by the window. Because it's cold outside, there's mist on the glass, and Eve draws patterns with her finger. Absurdly, Sucharita says, You're sure it wasn't your birthday? Everybody loses time on their birthday. Everybody does lose time on their birthday. It's like falling asleep and waking up after 15 hours or so. Children come back changed most visibly, like Alina. Adults might look the same or gain a few pounds or a deeper wrinkle. For her last birthday, Eve woke up with her first gray hair, which she promptly yanked out. Come on, Rita, you know better. It was a work thing. Besides, you know my birthday. Eve sips coffee. That's not it. What does Dane think? I didn't tell him. He's got his exhibition thing in it. I don't want to throw him off his game. Have you ever gone to the underground stations? Sucharita scoffs. No? Why? What do you mean, why? You know why. Nobody goes there. Other than you, I've never heard of someone even trying. Yes, but that's my point. Why don't we? Why do we just look away from it all the time? Why is it there? What is it for? Sucharita acts weary. I don't know, Eve. I didn't build the city. There are places you don't go. We teach it to our children. Even Alina knows not to. This investigation is fucking weird, and it's doing weird things to me, says Eve. She rubs out the patterns she drew and enjoys the cool feel of the window. But you are alive, my friend. You had an extra birthday, maybe. You're alive and you can catch the killer. Eve looks at her untouched drink, thinking, can I, though? Eve walks down a dark corridor in police headquarters with a thin folder under her arm. She comes to a door with a missing persons decal. She's only been to missing persons a few times in her career, although the two departments communicate often due to understandable areas of overlap. There are pneumatic tube lines in the building, so she could have sent the documents that way, but she finds it impersonal. Eve bursts in. Knuckle draggers! I come bearing gifts. Inside, 3 desks are pushed together to form a single large surface. 3 overworked detectives sit, slowly decaying, each poring over something. This place is drowning in paper. The walls are lined with shelves full of files, and there are no windows. Tidiness is optional. One of them says, What do you want, Stevens? Eve distributes glossy photos of Chelsea and Bea to all 3. Mother and daughter. If you get any missing persons reports about any matching these descriptions, could you let me know? Pretty please? It has to be both mother and daughter missing. The second detective says, Wait, these people are not missing? Eve smiles. Not yet, but they will be, I think. They might be. Stevens. Humour me, guys. I beg you. The gov says, be nice to me. I shall bring you cucumber sandwiches. Oh, sod off, Stevens. Nobody wants your cucumber sandwiches. Good. That means they're all mine, and you get nothing for helping me. Chapter 7. Eve sorts through the evidence from Storm's house. She has piles organized, clothing and fabrics, documents, household items. Over one pile, she stuffs a handmade cardboard placard with a large question mark drawn in marker. On the wall, a sketch of Storm Giuseppe that Dane drew from her description. Looks like a movie gangster, but it inspires Eve. And a hand-drawn floor plan of his house with the location of the various items marked. She comes to a book by Katrina Thatcher and squints. It's battered, dog-eared, and underlined in multiple places. There's marginalia, a lot of it abusive and obscene, like bad graffiti on the one hand, but somewhat intimately disparaging. Wrong. I hate this dewy-eyed sentimentality about what was essentially a commercial decision. Read Mayhew sometimes, Katrina. There was no church. It was full of sneak thieves and prostitutes. I have one word for you. Cholera. That's what depleted the market, not the better nature of city planners. Sure, let's just make it all up rather than pay history its due. Not a real thing, you silly. That was from the movie. Okay, not a fan of Thatcher. Did you know her, Storm? Because this seems personal. Eve flips the book over and stares at the author photo. She squints. Hang on a second. She's seen this book, this name, and this photo before. She dials the phone. Hello? Dane's voice, uninflected. Hi, sexy. What's going on? We are both working, says Dane. This is a work call. Who's Katrina Thatcher? You have her books. She's a utopian paper architect. I know what paper is, and I understand what an architect does, but what is a paper architect? Not a puppet, right? Dane sighs. Paper architect is one who designs buildings and structures that are never built. They are only on paper, hence paper architect. Yes, Thatcher is known for her visions of a futuristic London. She's a big influence on my work. She, in turn, was influenced by the Soviet paper architects like Bronzova and Avakumov. Have you met her? No, she retired decades ago. Goodbye, Eve. The phone is dead before Eve can reply, but she smiles all the same. She loves hearing his voice. Eve standing over Marlon, one of the secretaries. Thacher. She was an architect. Contact her publisher. Address, phone number, next of kin, if she's dead. Find me her dog. Anything. Her royalty checks must be going somewhere. Got it, says Marlon. A klaxon blasts from outside, followed by 2 others. Shit. Marlon inserts earplugs, as does everybody else in the office. Eve runs down to the basement where she left her own earplugs. She gets to them just in time. The same loud, distorted electronic sound as before penetrates even down here. When it's over, Eve removes the plugs and picks up Katrina's book. She starts to flip pages, but stops when she notices the same handwriting of the marginalia peeping out of a splayed open notebook. James is spooning yogurt into his mouth from a small pot. Eve stands in front of his desk. He had psychological profiles, says James, incredulous. Hundreds of them, says Eve. Maybe over 1,000, written in tightly packed longhand that I can barely read sometimes. She drops a few sheets of paper with black and red writing. There are crude sketches, too, not artistic, but diagrammatic. James examines the pages. So, he's psychotic. I don't know. I've asked for a psych opinion, but the profiles look professionally done, like the kind of notes taken during or after psychoanalyses. Storm is either a therapist or something similar. The profiles are mainly the same pattern, with names, dates of birth, family of origin, education, all that. One batch is very different, though. How so? More detail, more poetry. For example, Eve reads, B has a birthmark on her back that is in the shape of Sri Lanka. As she reads, Eve imagines a bedroom somewhere with dim lights. A young woman whom Eve thinks of as ideal B lies prone on a bed, relaxed, nude, birthmark on lower back. The hair that grows on it is coarser than the rest of her skin, and on some days she worries about it. Hands appear stroking the back, starting from the birthmark and moving upward to the curve of her neck. Ideal B turns her head, looks at Eve, and smiles. She'd think it was cancer, or worse. I'd ask what's worse than cancer. She'd say, Ideal B, mouthing the words. Flesh-eating bacteria. Ideal B bats the hand away, turns fully, and comes in for a kiss. Eve stops and is back in the office. The images were so vivid it was as if she were there, like it's a memory, not the journals of a serial murderer. James coughs. And you're thinking, oh, this is someone he was intimate with, a lover, a spouse maybe. He definitely lived with the person. He knows her cycle length, 27 days regular, no period pain. James scoffs. That's information you can also get by going through a woman's rubbish. This is not a stalking type situation, sir. I would know. And this B is the same name and age as my adult victim. You said I could have help. I need help sorting through the profiles, matching them to actual and potential victims. I have nobody for you right now. James picks his teeth. Eve spreads her arms. You said you led this menagerie. Well, that was then. This is now. Unless you want Montpelier. Oh, fuck no. Well, maybe I should put that escaped tiger on the payroll. Look, I'll see what I can do. I'll get you some virgins from Hendon College or something. What's your next move? I have no known acquaintances. It's like every other strange thing in this case. Killers can be loners, Eve. No, not his acquaintances, the victims, the mothers and children. No friends, no father in the picture. The children just attended school but never socialized with other kids. So, he's selecting isolated families. It's not difficult to understand. Being insular makes them more vulnerable. A knock on the door. Come. James seems happy for the interruption. The door swings open and Marlon leans in, holding a 3x5 card. He looks to Eve. I have that address you wanted. A light rain falls. The kind Londoners won't even grace with an umbrella. A car pulls up to the curb, and Eve steps out, recalling Marlin's words to her. 35 Gilligan Mews. The building is not on the maps, and I don't see any record of the local council. A tree-covered compound hiding in a neo-Georgian townhouse. Overgrown hedge and ivy sprawling everywhere, leaves on the ground as if it's autumn, rubbish blown in from the street. This place has not been maintained in a while. The driveway is gravel, no, pale crushed seashell, but there are no cars. Eve's shoes crunch as she makes her way to the front door. She feels wrong, bodily out of sorts, like she shouldn't be here, but she can't fathom why. There are no signs warning off trespassers, no beware of dogs, no barbed wire. It feels like a lesser form of what she experienced at the underground station. She pushes the bell. Nothing. No sound. She pushes it again, then raps the knocker. Hello? Miss Thatcher? She listens, no sound but raindrops. She hears a rustle and steps off the porch. She follows the sound around the side of the building. She finds a tall, gaunt, elderly man bent over a puddle, staring intently. He's in a t-shirt and sweatpants over tennis shoes. His clothes are wet. Hello? Sir? Says Eve. The man doesn't seem to register the sound. Eve inches closer. Sir, do you want to come out of the rain? The old man touches the surface of the puddle and brings the water close to his eye, rubbing it between thumb and forefinger. I was the first to know, and it was the little critters that told me, he says. Eve wonders if this is a care home of some sort. Sir? The microbes were wrong. That's how I knew I wasn't in London. Eve inches closer to the man. I think we should get out of the rain, sir. She touches the man's shoulder. He twists, takes one step back, and body checks Eve, pushing her to the wet ground. His face inches away from hers. His hands encircle her throat. You think you can sneak up on me? You're not supposed to be here. You out there, us in here. You leave us alone. Flecks of spittle drip on Eve. Police officer, get off me. Get the fuck off me right now. You have no power here. You have no power here. You have no power here. Eve grabs his forearms and torques to the left, augmenting the motion with a hip thrust that throws him off. Inwardly, she hopes he hasn't broken his knee or anything brittle. The man falls on his side and back. He starts to rise immediately. Eve recovers into a fighting crouch. Stand down, sir. I'm a police officer. You have no power here. You have no power here. Eve wonders how she can subdue him without injuring him, where a voice rings out from the house. Derry, leave the young woman alone. Standing at the side door is a woman with her head cocked to the left slightly, hair all white, wearing a kind of billowing robe with an intelligent gaze. Eve clocks her as maybe in her 60s. Because her feet are invisible inside her commodious clothing, she seems to glide forward, and it looks uncanny to Eve. Terry seems to calm down on hearing her voice. They're not allowed here, Katrina. This, then, is Katrina Thatcher. Go inside and change your clothes before you catch your death, she turns to Eve. I'm sorry, miss. He gets confused. Terry plods toward the side door and disappears. Katrina's eyes on him. Dementia? Asks Eve. Oh, not exactly. Some memory loss, yes. The world changed around him, and he's finding it difficult to adjust. I look after him. I understand. My partner is atypical. Katrina turns her whole body to face Eve. The wind catches her robe like a sail. Any minute now she will blow away. Oh, who are you? What do you want? D.S. Eve Stevens. Eve produces her warrant card and Katrina takes it, examines it carefully, then gives it back. Okay, D.S. Stevens. How can I help you? Oh, I want to talk about a man who's called Storm Giuseppe. Oh, all right. Well, I suppose this calls for tea, and we should wipe your coat down. Come with me. Eve can't gauge Katrina's reaction, but follows her into the house. Chapter 8. Eve finds herself in a well-lit space with large windows that show the rain has stopped. Every single surface is covered with paper of various sizes, with drawings and discarded pencils, hundreds of sketches of London, many familiar landmarks, but some entirely speculative and imaginative. It makes Eve think of Dane. Katrina fusses, moves some papers off a sofa, whacks the cushions, producing a plume of dust. She turns on a TV that first shows only snow. She smacks it, and a picture resolves. A still shot of a Sumatran tiger in a cage. Nobody was killed in the attack, but 2 people are in hospital, and no one will require reconstructive surgery. The Lord Mayor was critical of Eve tuts. They still haven't captured this tiger, and now people are hurt. Katrina says, oh, they'll catch it. They always do. And it won't kill anyone. It happens. What does she mean by that? It happens? Katrina nods. Well, from time to time, yes. I never get visitors, but I know enough to apologize for the mess. Sit here, officer. Eve, coat off, examines some drawings. Oh, these are extraordinary. My partner loves your work. They were going to be for my last book. Unfortunately, I got carried away and never finished. But I'm still drawing. I'll be right back. Katrina wafts off. Eve wanders about looking at other drawings. She lifts a broad sheet of tracing paper to expose a slate of plastic or glass. She raps on the surface. Plastic. She has no idea what it is. There appear to be sockets for plugging something in, maybe power supplies. There is an elegance to the lines that she finds pleasing. She lifts it up, turns it around. She hears footfalls and turns. Katrina enters with a steaming mug that says, "Fuck off, I'm reading." She shows the plastic thing to Katrina. What's this? Katrina takes it from her. It's an art project. Here's your tea. I don't know how you take it, so I added milk and sugar. You seem a little skinny, if you don't mind me saying. Eve sits. She sips the tea. Miss Thatcher, do you know Storm Giuseppe? No reaction on that face. Call me Katrina, and first tell me why you ask. I found your book among his things. That's all. My books are among many people's things, including your neuroatypical partner. There was some suggestive writing on it. But that's besides the point. You haven't answered my question. Do you know him? Yes, I used to know him. What's he done? He's a person of interest in a murder inquiry. Katrina nods absently. You don't seem surprised. No, I'm not. Storm was always the violent sort. Violent enough to be homicidal? Well, that word doesn't mean what you think it does, darling. Violent? Homicidal, at least from his perspective. Eve doesn't understand what Katrina is saying. Eve's mentor taught her something about interrogations. It's like building a house where each layer has to be solid before the next begins. If the subject says something you don't understand, clarify before moving on. But Eve has more pressing questions. She'll come back to the homicide definition question. Has he killed before? Not that I know of, but I haven't seen him in a while. How do you know him? We used to live here together. Here, in this building, many years ago. As lovers? Married? Katrina laughs. Oh, no. We pretty much hated each other on sight. Hence the vitriol in Storm's scribbling, thought Eve. So why were you living together? Government grant. We were seen as talented individuals, and we were billeted together to see if something amazing would emerge. Theory of serendipity and all that. And it didn't work out. Katrina, excuse me, but you seem to be evasive. Yes, I'm sure it appears that way. I do want to help, but I'm not best placed. Neither is Terry. We haven't seen Storm in over a decade. For all I know, he weighs 300 pounds and has grown a beard. Well, what can you tell me that might help? Not what. Who? Do you have a pen? Eve, leaning over Marlon, reading from her notebook. Kelly, Oren, male, and Kelly, Ellen, female, married. No middle names, no known dates of birth, but they'd be retired by now. Last known address was 35 Gilligan Mews. Cross-reference with everything we know about Giuseppe, which isn't a lot, but... Leave it to me, says Marlon. 3 fresh-faced young people from police college sifting through the boxes of material in Eve's basement war room. Eve's at a desk on the phone. I just want you to check reported stalkers for anybody who... Yes. Anyone who matches the description of Storm, Giuseppe... Thank you. Yes. Marlon walks in and stands at Eve's desk, looking smug. Raymond, I'll call you back. She puts the phone down. What? Found him, says Marlon. And? They're dead. Torrential rain, like a deluge. Eve drenched, wandering the aisles of the old Fulham cemetery, looking at headstones. Oren Kelly and Ellen Kelly. They died within a month of each other. Eve stops at 2 identical black headstones side by side. Oren and Ellen Kelly. Eve turns. 2 uniforms and a cemetery worker are behind her, and a digger blocks the main aisle. Over here, she says. The digger carefully exhumes the coffins under Eve's careful eye. She remembers what Katrina said when Eve reported the Kellys' deceased state to her. You must exhume them and arrange for an autopsy, Detective. Did Storm kill them? I have no idea. I didn't even know they were dead. I gave you their names as people who knew Storm better than either me or Terry. I don't think he had reason to murder the Kellys, but can you afford not to be sure? 2 ornate coffins placed side by side on the ground, mounds of wet dirt beside the holes. Eve stands between them, willing each to contain something that will break the case, for she is tired of mysteries. 5. The Autopsy. Chapter 9. Dane paces in the front room of the house he shares with Eve, sweating, muttering to himself. He is pacing in an exact circle, feet falling on the exact same path each time. The wood paneling creaks imperceptibly with each step. Where is she? 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 He stops abruptly, turns, picks up the phone, and his mind goes quiet. The earpiece glistens with his sweat from the last time he used it. He dials. The clicking of the returning dial assembly soothes him. It tells him he is doing something to solve the where is she problem. Detective Sergeant Eve Stevens, please. He listens. This is the 6th time you've told me that. I will call back after some time has elapsed. Where is she? The doorbell goes off. Excuse me. He hangs up the phone. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Dane swings open the front door. Where is she? He doesn't know the person standing there. Where is she? Where is she? Yes. What do you want? Storm. Giuseppe smiles. and swings his lead pipe, striking Dane on the temple, knocking him to the floor. The pipe smacks Dane's crown 3 times as he lies there. Dane stops moving. Where is she? An examination room in pathology. Eve in rubber gloves, sorting through labeled material on a backlit table. Her face is a mask of concentration. The door opens behind her. A staffer says, "D.S. Stevens, there's a message for you. You're to call Dane." Eve doesn't look round. "I'll get to it. Thanks. He's called a few times." There's irritation in the voice, but Eve does not respond, and after a few seconds, the door slams shut. There are 2 piles marked Ellen Kelly and Orrin Kelly. From the Ellen pile, Eve picks up a massive tome with a weathered, cloth-bound hardcover. She opens it and flips through the pages. The Book of Everything. Eve opens a random page. The problem of Y2K bug turned out to be overhyped, although who was to say the hype didn't lead to veritable armies of IT consultants fixing the problem before midnight? I don't know, but the majority of humans once believed the world was flat. Never underestimate the stupidity of so-called Homo sapiens, wise human. She flips to other pages, flips again. What the hell is a Y2K bug? Eve squints, then drops the book. She spies a similar book on the Orrin pile and picks that up. She turns pages. Orrin's book is formatted as a journal or desultory diary. It reads like an unpolished and disorganized memoir, but she can picture him and Ellen from it. Orrin Kelly is a tall, lean man in his 20s, on a stage in the middle of Greenwich Park. He is dressed in a suit, playing a violin. I was never going to play the Philharmonic of any country, but I loved Mendelssohn, and I had a record deal, so I was happy. The crowd mills about, desultory. People coming and going because it's a free concert. Orrin, older, is in his 40s at a desk working on a computer. I was a lay expert on the life of Mary Shelley, and I wrote a 700-page biography that nobody bought. Orrin reading from his manuscript on a podium in a bookshop. Only 4 people in the audience, an array of empty chairs, a lonely cheese board to the side. The only thing I gained by writing that book was I met Ellen. Ellen is a woman in her 40s occupying one of the seats. She was there by mistake. She thought Margaret Atwood would be reading. Lucky for me. Orrin and Ellen in their 60s now, both on opposite sides of the sofa reading. They stop, look up, smile at each other, and continue reading. We knew something was coming, an end-of-century malediction to cast a shadow over all humanity, and when it didn't arrive on midnight 1999, we figured everything was okay. It wasn't. Eve closes the book and roots through the other items. She picks up a device which immediately reminds her of what she saw in Katrina's house. What the holy hell are you? It's a smaller rectangular solid with smoothed out angles and a cover decorated with cartoon kitties. Eve holds it up to her ear and shakes it. No moving parts. How is such a thing tooled? The fuck is going on here? A knock, and the door swings open. The same staffer as before, Sullen says, "He's about to start." Eve stands between 2 gurneys with sheet-covered bodies lying on each, Bob prepping his instruments like a chef. It reminds Eve of how Dane did things, and she knows she ought to call home as soon as the autopsy is done. "Dashing Dr. Bob. Are you a Londoner?" Originally from Basingstoke, with a cut of Huguenot stock. Why? 23 Leinster Gardens. You heard of it? No. Well, they send rookies there on their first week on the job. Police rookies. You're told to question a suspect or that there's a disturbance or something. Bob answers absently. And 23 and 24 Leinster Gardens are both there and not there. They're facades, hollow buildings, empty shells, excavated and destroyed in the 1800s for the coming railway. Bob keeps working on his tools. Gilligan Mews doesn't exist on the post route. Neither did Storm's house. I wouldn't have been surprised if the Kellys' graves had turned up empty. I don't even know how you got the judge to authorize this so quickly. Easy. Eve held up 2 sheets of paper for the judge to read. Color drained from the judge's face. The judge signed the exhumation order. A bit of luck. One of the psychological profiles we got from Storm's house matched the judge exactly. That tends to cause complicated feelings in a person. Bob flips a switch, changing the lighting. My point is, there's some weird shit going on here, Dr. Bob. I'm sure it'll all make sense once we're done. He's still not fully attending to Eve's words. He probably thinks this is a bit off-kilter, but not too unusual. He must have seen strangeness in his ears. He draws down the sheet on the first. It's Ellen. Identity confirmed as Ellen Kelly. Elderly female, thin, some skin somewhat sallow. No tattoos or prominent scars. External examination, height, weight, eye color, neck. Already carried out by assistant. Bob brandishes a scalpel. Internal exam begins. I'll be using a modified Y incision. Bob cuts Ellen from behind each ear down to the center of the chest. The blood drains from his face, and he drops the scalpel and pulls back the skin. His eyes go wide. What? Eve leans forward. Dr. Bob? Hush. I'm recording. Subcutaneous space filled with glistening fluid layer. Query infection, query malignancy. He picks up a drill. It hums to life and cracks into something. It stops and Bob opens the ribcage. Sweet Jesus! Bob turns to the side and vomits into his mask, then removes that. Eve peers into the chest cavity and squints. What the fuck is this? Bob recovers, pulls the sheet off Oren's cadaver, and cuts without the surgical care he showed on Ellen's body. He pulls the drill and opens the chest. Breathing heavy, he moves to Oren's head and drills all around it. He opens the skull and something wet splashes out to the pristine floor. Bob and Eve recoil in disgust. They step away and stare. Bob pours gin into a pencil holder and hands it to Eve. He swigs from the bottle. His hands shake. I thought I had seen everything. Every possible permutation of humanity, but this? What are we dealing with? I need you to send to me because I'm off my axis here. I have no idea. I have a number to call when I encounter inexplicables. I'm going to call that number. Are these aliens? Bob screws up his face and cocks his head. Are you kidding? Eve persists. I'm serious. Strange bodies that defy normal anatomy, strange technical devices, references to places and times that don't exist. There's no such thing as aliens, Detective. That's his fantasy. This has an explanation, a rational one, even if we are not privy to it. It might be a government thing. It might be an elaborate prank. I'll make the call. Unconvinced, Eve drains the pencil holder and leaps up. Where are you going? Gilligan Mews. Katrina Thatcher clearly knew what we would find. It's time for her to explain herself. When did you last sleep? Or eat? Don't know. Don't care. Eve's car pulls up and stops outside Katrina's house. The radio squawks. Eve kills the engine and picks up her receiver. Dispatch, this is 3-9. Come back. Dispatch, 3-9. Message, over. Your assistants have a likely target address, 17 Church Street, Willesden, over. Eve frowns, looks to Katrina's lit windows. 3-9, come back. Copy, dispatch. Send units and take targets into protective custody. I'm en route, over. Copy. Out. 3-9, out. Eve cradles the radio and leaves the car. Eve straddles up to the front door, but it opens before she can knock, and Katrina stands there. Katrina says, "Yeah, you did the autopsy, didn't you? I can see it on your face." "Is this a prank? I can charge you with wasting police time, Katrina." "Come in. Let's talk. There isn't much time." All the papers are gone. The lounge looks like an average room anywhere. Cleaner and more tidy, which make Eve reflexively suspicious. Tidy when the cops are coming means covering up something. "What happened to the drawings?" "I filed them," says Katrina. She studies Eve's face, trying to gauge emotion. "Who are the Kellys? You sent me after monsters." "You had to see it for yourself. You wouldn't have believed me if I told you, Detective." Katrina is annoying in her calm. "Told me what? What the fuck is going on? Who is Storm Giuseppe? Who are the Kellys? Who are you?" Terry appears at a doorway. "Storm, the Kellys, Terry, and me, we're all the same. Like I told you before, we have certain gifts. Mine is with architecture, structures, materials, that sort of thing. But right now, you need to be concerned about Storm." Terry says, "Storm controls people." "Controls?" "More like modifies, molds, crafts into psychological images he approves of," says Katrina. "Either one at a time or en masse. That's his area." "I thought he was a killer." "Well, from your perspective, he might be that too," says Katrina. "What do you mean from my perspective? The last time you said something weird about homicide." Blue lights from outside flash past the window and pass over Terry's face. "It's too late. Listen, you'll have to go to the places you can't go, the places you're excluded from. That's where your answers lie," says Katrina. "What about my investigation? I think I've found his next target." Harsh knocking at the door. "This is not an investigation anymore, girl. It's not about cops and robbers. It never was. You're behind a curtain you shouldn't even have seen," says Katrina. "Armed police. Eve Stevens, we have a warrant for your arrest." Eve spins around, confused. "It's started. Try not to argue. It goes better if you don't argue," says Terry. "I am unarmed. I am cooperating. I'm about to open the door. I have 2 old-age people with me." "Who are you calling old?" says Terry. "Shh," says Katrina. Eve opens the door. 4 armed response officers point rifles at her. Behind them is Montpelier, her colleague from the office. Shit. What's he doing here? "I am not resisting. I am unarmed. I have a vulnerable adult in the premises. Lower your weapons." She raises her hands. Montpelier says, "Eve Stevens, you are under arrest." "Montpelier, you fucking idiot. I should have known it was you. You're mistaken." "Have we met?" He tries to focus his roomy eyes on her. He skipped his morning shave, and spidery blood vessels under his sallow skin speak to his liver's relationship with alcohol. But even he can't be this stupid. "Well, apparently not. Small wonder. You're absent from work with flu all the time." Montpelier is momentarily confused and then continues his duty. "You're under arrest for..." "I'm on a case, you moron. I'm not a suspect. The governor will have your ass after this, I swear to God." Montpelier nods to the armed response lads, and they lower their weapons. You're on a case?" "Yes, Serial murder? Asked the governor. And you're a detective? Detective Sergeant. Why are you playing stupid? I know you don't close cases, but this... Montpelier turns to one of the armed cops, sotto voce. We're going to need mental health input. Quickly, I don't want the pace clock running out. One of the lads starts talking into a radio. Okay, listen, we're going to take you to a place of safety and interview you there. We'll have someone neutral with you, an appropriate adult. Wait, you think I'm mad? Eve's heart sinks. She starts looking for exits. Montpelier produces a set of handcuffs. Eve turns around and stares at Terry and Katrina, who remain motionless. Don't fight, says Katrina. Montpelier cuffs Eve. Tell me the units are on the way to Church Street, at least. Sure. Whatever you say. Montpelier is not interested. Storm Giuseppe will kill again, if not tonight, some night or day soon. Okay, I'm not arguing with you. Let's go. Eve slumps with resignation. What am I supposed to have done? We're charging you with attempted murder, so an insanity plea is a good way to go. Good luck with it. Attempted murder of whom? Roger Rabbit? Cock Robin? Terry keys on this and suddenly cheers. I, said the sparrow, with my bow and arrow. Katrina rubs his shoulder. Terry, hush now. This is serious. Montpelier looks at Terry, then back to Eve. Your partner, Dane Russell. You tried to kill him. Eve stares at him, mouth agape. Are you fucking insane? Chapter 10. A navy blue van with blacked-out windows pulls up outside the forensic pathology office. The doors open and 4 black-clad people troop out, something regimented about their movements. They march through reception, but both the receptionist and security guard ignore them. Instead, they watch a TV show, amateur footage of the escaped tiger. It's like the intruders don't exist. When they reach the examination room, they methodically place each item from Ellen and Orrin Kelly's graves in opaque bags and seal them. They take them away. They spray disinfecting fluid all over the room. In the autopsy room, the dark people methodically remove Bob's surgical instruments. Bob himself cowers in the far corner as if trying not to be noticed. They have come with body bags. They unceremoniously remove the bodies, first Ellen, then Orrin, zipping them up. They wheel them out on gurneys. They hose the area down and spray something in the air. They return to Bob and gesture for him to disrobe. He complies, taking off his clothes, which they gather in a separate body bag, zip up, and take away. They produce a machine with 10 holes for fingers. Bob sticks his hands in and they activate it. No pain, but a flash of light. They hose him down and spray him with a chemical. They turn and finally leave the autopsy room. Bob alone remains somewhat shaken. Outside, the last of them gets in the van, and they take off. 6. The Caretaker. Chapter 11. Some kind of control room, although all panels are dark. Dim lighting except a grayscale hologram of Tom Jones circa 1975 dancing silently with verve. His lips move, suggesting that he's singing as well. He is Nico, an AI avatar. The hologram glitches sometimes, but always returns to its original resolution. There are no sounds except an occasional drip of water that echoes in the darkness. One panel lights up. The monitor shows Eve alone in a sterile room. Nico dances toward it, interested. Eve is in an interrogation room with bags under her eyes like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair is untidy, and there is something feral about her comportment. She has lost the mantle of detective, maybe the entire veneer of civilization. A small spider crawls along the edge of the table. She snatches it and throws it into her mouth. There's a camera on the ceiling, and she stares at it like she knows who's observing her intimately. Phone call. 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 The door swings open. An angry, uniformed officer stands there. Eve smiles. I've been here all night. I want my phone call. That dumbcough Montpelier is running around about the pace clock, but as usual, he forgot the fundamentals. What? The uniform is a night shift guy. He can barely understand what's happening. Eve mimes holding a telephone handset. Suspect is entitled to a phone call. She wants it now. The phone rings in the foyer, and Sucharita sachets in to pick up the receiver. Hello? Sucharita. Oh, I'm so glad you're home. Listen. Sucharita frowns. Who's this? It's Eve. I've been arrested, if you can believe that. They won't even let me speak to James. I'm sorry. Did you want my wife? I don't believe I know you. What? Eve Stevens? Eve and Dane? Sort of godmother to Alina. Sucharita, I don't have time for jokes. They said I tried to kill Dane. I don't even know where he's being treated or how hurt he is. He doesn't do well out of our home. I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. I wish I could help. Maybe you have the wrong number? She perks up. Dial again. I'm sure you'll find who you were looking for. Good luck. Chin up. No, wait, Sucharita hangs up. Eve gently replaces the receiver, deflated. Worried now, the uniform unplugs the telephone and winds the cord around his forearm. Eve stares at him. So you don't know me? She says. No, I don't, he says. What if they told you about me? That you're mental and dangerous? Maybe I am, Eve frowns. Can you check on number 17 Church Street in Willesden to see if... I'm sorry, I'm not even supposed to be talking to you. The door opens and the uniform rushes out, immediately replaced by a woman and a man. Eve Stevens. My name is Carla. I belong to Diversion Service. This is my colleague, John. Diversion, says Eve with all the derision she can muster. Yes, diversion is. I know what a diversion is. You think I'm mad. We don't think anything, Eve. We're here to talk to you, find out if you're unwell, says Carla. We're not detectives, says John. That much is abundantly clear, says Eve. Carla roots in her bag and comes up with a manila folder. She opens it and places a black and white photograph on the table. Eve glances at it, but it's a cop's glance. She picks up all the details in a short time. Dane lying in a pool of dark fluid, eyes closed, injuries all about his head. Carla drops a second photo. It's of a foot-long lead pipe, wet, a small clump of wet, matted hair on the end. Eve controls her reaction. Where's Dane? Alive, and that's all I'm allowed to tell you, says Carla. John hands Carla a notepad and pen. Eve, tell us about yourself. Where were you born? A mental hospital in a Gothic Victorian building where hope goes to die, a common area inside where patients sit, watch TV and play games, all under the watchful eye of uniformed staff. Eve sits by herself, staring into space. On the TV, flat Earth activists talk about the edge of the planetary disk. The screen is filled with an 1893 illustration, map of the square and stationary Earth. Eve glances at this. Her eye movement is slower than we've seen before, like she's drugged. Wow. I didn't expect this to be where the story ended for you. Eve's head slides to the right. Each word slams into her like plate glass, and she has to focus to extract meaning. Storm stands looking down at her, looking superior. Eve's eyes widen slightly, and there's a tremor to her right hand, but she can't move. None of your kind has ever interfered with my work before. It's by design. I'm a busy man. You all go about your clockwork existence, and I go about my business. You see, it might seem to you like your thoughts and actions are your own. They're not. I put them there. Or rather, I set the mainspring of the clock in motion. You are just acting out probable iterations. Finite probable iterations, I might add. Eve frowned, struggling against the thing that has paralyzed her. When you turned up at my house, I was surprised, but it was a minor irritation at most. I watched you investigate for a while. It amused me. I figured you for curiosity. Storm leans in, mere inches from her face. An aberrant pathway into your brain, maybe. In crude language, maybe you had your equivalent of a stroke and a new pathway formed. Something I couldn't have anticipated. I don't know. But I got bored and I wanted to return to my work, so I decided to kill you. Eve grunting, straining to move. But you weren't home. Instead, I had to deal with that retard, Dane. But then again, he was a retard that you loved. I figured this should distract her. Why not? Storm plops down next to her. Everybody else in the room ignores them. I arranged circumstances so that you ended up here. I can go about my work, and when I have a break, I can come over here, chop off your head, and examine your brain to make sure this never happens again, or to make sure it does happen again, but to my advantage. He nods and stands. So, D.S. Stevens, I will be back in a week or a month or a year. For now, I'm off to Church Street. I know you know all about it. You can say anything to anyone you like, and nobody will believe you. Storm slides out of her field of vision. Seconds later, Eve can move again. She lurches to her feet and looks this way and that, but Storm is gone. The TV continues to broadcast. You only think that because you've always thought that. You always thought that because you've always been taught that the world was one way. The fact that you were told that does not make it true. Eve screams. Your anger does not make the world into what you want it to be. The world can only be what it is. Eve queues up with the other patients to get her pills. She does not question them. A part of her brain worries about how much she might be stinking right now. She should be doing something, but she doesn't know what. It's like a distant memory. The entire world is out of focus, like Oz or Neverland. Her turn to get medicine. What is being treated here? You have not told me how exactly I am ill. But they don't answer, and Eve is not sure she spoke out loud. She gulps the medicine down, drinks the water from the tiny plastic cup, and opens her mouth wide, wiggling her tongue from side to side, then up and down. The nurse nods, dismissing her, already preparing for the next patient. Eve lies in bed in the dark, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dane. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. In Gilligan Mews, Katrina is in the kitchen, kneading dough. Terry stands behind her, staring at the top of her head. Katrina seems to enjoy working with the dough, almost meditative, but she can't do this with Terry hovering. Terry is intense in his stare. It's getting to Katrina. She finally throws up her hands. All right. Jesus. I'll do it. Terry smiles. Eve and a psych doctor in an interview room. He reads her case file. You know I can't accept any of this as anything but delusional, Miss Stevens. Eve sighs. I do, but I also know that you have to keep meticulous records of my delusions. I want there to be a record just in case. In case of what? In case I lose my memory. You want me to write down that there is an old-age pensioner serial killer running around London, altering architecture, changing people's brains, and killing women and children. You want me to write this because you fear memory loss? Trust me, there's a lot of it going around. As the doctor scribbles notes, Eve notices the keychain at his belt. Patients watching television, Eve among them. A support worker says, All right, everybody, it's midnight, time for bed. Eve clocks the bunch of keys on the support worker's belt. It is so hard to think in the haze of chemicals, but she manages to form an objective. Keys. The support worker walks down and checks each room. Each door has a wide transom window cut into it for this purpose, although some also have side lights with strengthened mullions to prevent breakouts. The worker hears coughing from a room and looks in. Eve is crouched on the floor, choking, racked with a tuberculosis cough. The support worker bursts in, concerned. Are you all right? He lays a hand on Eve's shoulder. Eve grabs the hand, twists it, rolls onto her back. She raises both of her legs and scissors them around his neck. She swings her legs down along with his head, which crashes to the floor. He's not out for the count, but he groans, stunned. Eve relieves him of his keys. I'm sorry. I don't mean you harm. It's 15 minutes. Someone will check the room and see you. She rises to leave, then looks back, concerned. She's only done the maneuver in the gym before now and wasn't even sure it would work. She really hopes she hasn't given him a head injury. She exits. On the grounds, Eve sprints away from the building, footfall silent in the grass. It's a warm night, no clouds, the beginnings of an gibbous moon. It could almost be a pleasant night run. An alarm goes off and keeps blaring, destroying the illusion. Eve looks back, briefly, but keeps running. Eve! She stops and looks around. Katrina is standing next to a mound of sand taller than she is. It reminds Eve of a tumulus. Katrina? Is that a tunnel? I thought I should go with the classics. Come on, let's get you out of here. Shouts from the hospital. Eve hesitates. Is there a reason you're waiting, love? Says Katrina. You're one of them. This could be a trap for me, says Eve. Yes, it could. Eve expects more, but nothing is forthcoming, and the voices are closer. Well? Well, what? You're right, Katrina shrugs. Eve sucks her teeth and sprints over to Katrina. She jumps into the hole. Katrina sinks into it, and the mound of sand flows like water, filling out the defect in the ground. In seconds, grass covers the site and is the same as any other patch. Chapter 12. Eve and Katrina are in brick-lined, round tunnels that look like catacombs. There are rusted iron rails running alongside. Overhead, at intervals, there are lights and electric cables. It's wet with moisture and green algae on the walls. There is a path that bootleggers and smugglers would have used. Eve asks, Where are we? Underground, says Katrina. Be more specific. Every city in the world has underground tunnels. For overflow, for sewage, for the river. Drains, spillways, sewers. There's even a theory that all the tunnels under each city in the world approximate each other in shape, even though the builders never met. It's called urban knot theory. All right, stop. I'm not lying. I'm an architect, says Katrina. No, I mean, stop moving. Katrina stops and faces Eve. I don't know who or what you people are, or how you manipulated my life. I do know this. Storm Giuseppe is a murderer. I am a detective. I will apprehend him, and he will face the king's justice. I need to get to Church Street, or a mother and a child will die. I thought you might say that. You realize you can't stop him. Nobody in the police remembers you as a detective, so you have no backup. I have to try. Eve has no idea how she will deal with Storm, but she can always start by warning Bee and Chelsea. I thought you might say that, too. We're here already. She points to an iron door on the left wall of the tunnel. Church Street. The improbability of her choosing to stop right at the exit of Church Street washes over Eve, but it's one of several events that she will have to investigate later. She rushes toward the door, grabs the handle, then turns back. Katrina is just standing there. You're not coming? I am not. You're the detective. I'm just a lover of elegant design and space management. Good luck, says Katrina. She turns to leave. Oh, wait! Katrina stops. Yes. Dane, do you know where he is? He's fine. He will be fine. If I don't make it back, can you... Katrina nods. I'll look after him. I promise. Eve tries the handle. The door opens inward with a screech and discharges flakes of red-brown dust. It scratches an arc on the floor. Eve staggers out of the underground station, holding her head like she's in pain. She stops, bends over, and takes deep breaths to dispel the waves of nausea that she feels. She recovers presently and looks up. Eve finds herself amid rows of residential buildings on each side, sodium yellow streetlights glowing, but a faint halo speaks to the presence of a mild fog. The street is devoid of people. She starts slow, but breaks into a trot, mouthing the house numbers under her breath. 11. 13. Eve Stevens, you should not be here. Eve stops, startled. Nico has appeared beside her as a hologram of young Tom Jones. Eve looks around, then back at Nico, stunned. Who are you? I'm Nico. I look after this place. Are you real? Eve passes a hand through Nico's torso. Nico's mouth movements do not match the words, and he glitches. Oh, I'm a real hologram, and I represent a real program that can make real changes to your world, if that's what you mean. Oh, this is all insane. I'm seeing things. I should go back to the asylum. I've gone insane. I can see how it would seem that way to you, Eve Stevens. How are you even standing up? You should be in pain, says Nico. I am. But I am not leaving until I stop Storm Giuseppe. Do you know him? Yes. Do you know where he is? I do. He's standing behind you. Eve's eyes go wide and she spins around. Storm punches her right in the center of the face. Eve slams to the ground hard. The violence is not necessary, says Nico. Storm kicks Eve in the ribs. She curls up and cries out in exhalation of pain. He swings back his leg to kick again. Eve unfurls herself and jerks at his weight-bearing ankle. Storm falls. Eve rolls on top of him, straddling his belly. She punches him rapidly 3 times in the face. I don't even know what you think you're fighting for, says Nico. Storm shrugs his free arm, and a shiny new pipe emerges from his sleeve. He slams this into Eve's head, and she falls off him. Storm, bleeding from his left eye and his nose, stands. Eve struggles, lifts herself up, one hand holding her scalp. You and Storm Giuseppe, you're under arrest for the murders. Do shut up. He draws a knife, lunges at Eve, grabs her, and slashes her in the belly while holding her like a lover. Her mouth opens and she gasps. "This is pointless," says Nico. Storm drives the blade deeper and drags it across Eve's belly. She loses muscle tone and crumples. Storm steps back. "She mustn't disappear, Nico. I want her brain, you understand?" Eve's ragged breathing holding her guts in, but when she examines her hands in the streetlights, her blood is purple. Her insides spill out cables, fiber optics, tiny lights, lubricant, machinery. Eve is a construct with machinery inside her. There is no flesh to be seen. Eve does not understand what is happening. What? Am I dying? You need to be first alive in order to die. Shit. You're just a part of an elaborate diorama we built to make us feel less homesick. Eve experiences flashbacks. Bee's corpse, open head wound, purple blood, no brain, wires poking out. Chelsea's corpse, a mess of purple and fiber optics splayed out. Dr. Bob cutting into Orrin Kelly. Normal human tissue with blood, fat, and muscle. Ellen Kelly's brain of white and gray matter. Shocked reaction from Dr. Bob and Eve when they see the organic matter which is alien to them. Dane lying on the ground, purple blood, wires poking out. Katrina says, "Yes." What's he done? Eve says, "He's a person of interest in a murder inquiry." Katrina nods absently. "You don't seem surprised." No, I'm not. Storm was always the violent sort. Violent enough to be homicidal. Well, that word doesn't mean what you think it does, darling. Violent? Homicidal. Eve lying flat on the asphalt, but still conscious, her futile movements now less smooth, more mechanical. She sees the street at 90-degree angle, Storm wiping blood off himself. Nico walks over to Eve. He squats on his haunches and cocks his face sideways to match hers. He taps her forehead. He's a hologram. How can he touch her? Oh. What's up, pussycat? Still with us? All of that wasn't needed. I'll make you comfortable. Can you still talk? I like to talk when I work. The scene darkens, and Eve loses consciousness. 7. The Apologists. Chapter 13. Eve's eyelids open. She's in a control room with multiple monitors, keyboards, and blinking lights. Nico looks straight at her. His current Dom Jones form is that of Mars Attacks era. "Ah, you're awake. Nice. Can you hear me?" Eve can, but she can't answer. She doesn't know why. Her mouth isn't gagged. She wonders if she has had brain damage from the beating Storm put on her. She feels panic, yet her heart remains still. What was it Storm said when he was gutting her? Actually, it doesn't matter. I can see from your waveform that you're being stimulated. Let me explain what's happening. I'm trying to port your brain patterns. To do this, I have to keep you actively thinking. Eve tries to make sense of what she's seeing. The lights, the dials. But you can't talk. I'll tell you a story while I work. I'll tell you about Storm and about what you think of as London. A family home in London, with a Storm in his 20s and his family, Bee and Chelsea, all laughing while playing with finger paints in the kitchen area. Happy family. Storm takes a phone call on his mobile. Chelsea is at a window pointing to the sky and speaking, although Storm can't make out what she's saying. Bee joins her. They both wave Storm over urgently. He gestures that he's on the phone. Storm can't even remember who it was he was talking to on that day. It seemed so important at the time. The window panes shatter with a crack, and in an instant Bee is sucked out the window, banging her left foot on the casement. Chelsea levitates right after her mother, but Storm rushes and catches her by the ankle. He looks out. Instead of blue, the sky is indigo, with hurricane-level winds. Storm watches in horror as Bee is pulled away into the sky, shrinking, pinwheeling, screaming. These are not weather patterns England is used to. A loud bang, Chelsea and Storm look up as the roof is ripped off their house, then darkness. The house is rubble, though the storm is over. It did not go well for the Giuseppe family. Storm's hand emerges, and he digs himself out. Chelsea is in his arms, but she is limp. Dead. The entire landscape is blasted, no houses standing, smoke, fires, a downed jet, bodies everywhere. He doesn't know for how long, but Storm is walking, carrying Chelsea's body, destination unknown, heart numb. A self-driving military vehicle on treads pulls up, and the doors open. Inside, younger versions of Oren, Ellen, Katrina, and Terry. They beckon him in. Later still, all 5 of them surround Nico, who is talking, dancing, gesticulating as Tom Jones in his sex bomb years. There are only 5 survivors, a race of 7 billion reduced to Storm, Ellen, Oren, Terry, and Katrina. It is a disaster. Nico is sent to explain it to them. Nico points to a gigantic spacecraft taking up most of the sky. It's too large for them to take in its entire shape or structure. It's partially obscured by cloud cover. The humans call the aliens the Apologists. This was supposed to be a gentle visitation, but the Apologists didn't even understand humans to be sentient. Their ships were so large they caused massive weather anomalies and magnetic fluctuations. They killed the human race by accident. Young Katrina stands on the south bank of the Thames, gesturing. In response, a diagrammatic tower bridge flows across the river, after which solid material fills in the spaces from each side, meeting in the middle. The survivors have to rebuild the world from memory. Using alien technology, Katrina, the architect, recreated London. Thousands of naked synthetic humans stored in a vast vaulted space that seemed to stretch to infinity. Storm and Tense at a keyboard behind them, entering data. Storm applied his knowledge of human nature into creating people on an android template the Apologists supplied. They called these simulants, simulated humans. The Kellys, cheerful, writing with ink into books. The Kellys were tasked with recalling everything they could about the world that died. They put these in what they called the Book of Everything. Think of it as a free associated encyclopedia. You've read it. You know what I mean. Terry lying on a bed, unreactive. Terry was catatonic with survivor's guilt for a long time. He was not helpful at all. Storm, the Kellys, and Katrina holding their ears as loud sound blasts through them. Every afternoon, the aliens would blare a loud apology, deafening, really. It was painful in multiple languages. We tried to stop it, and the best we could do was distort the output. That's why everybody carries earplugs, intergalactic thoughts, and prayers, right? Young Katrina and young Storm have a drag-out yelling match in the living room at Gilligan Mews. The Kellys and Terry watch on passively. Storm and Katrina disagreed about how London should be rebuilt. Katrina wanted a utopian approach, taking advantage of the catastrophe to build a city of wonders. Storm wanted the world built as it was, with high fidelity, though he had his reasons. Storm in a workshop tinkering with a child simulant. Around him, abandoned drafts of simulants of Bee and Chelsea. He looks like a mad scientist building the Bride of Frankenstein. He tried in vain to create replicas of his wife and child. It didn't work. Then he decided if he could duplicate the world and the social milieu that generated those personalities, their templates would grow organically into the people he wanted. Storm flings the model away from him and goes on an orgy of destruction with what is handy. A lead pipe. He is left breathing heavy atop a pile of bodies that look eerily human, covered in dark purple blood. Storm, old now, leaving the group home. Katrina and Terry, both old, watching him go. Storm's strategy didn't work. Over the passing decades, he became bitter. He kept making Bee and Chelsea simulants and killing them when dissatisfied. Storm joins Nico in the room. Nico continues. Which is where you came in, Eve. You're a simulant. You're all designed to ignore Storm's research. Our life's work is what you live in now. You are my life's work, but not when you make a nuisance of yourself, says Storm. Eve's face and hair have been cleaned up, although she looks pale and drawn. Her eyes flicker with psychotic movements. You are under arrest, Storm Giuseppe, for murder and attempted murder. From her neck down where the skin ceases, she has no body. Her head and neck are on a harness, and multiple cables lead from her stump to the control panels, reminding her of Dane's automata. Purple fluid leaks from her mouth with each word. Her brain is balked. She didn't hear anything we said. We might have wasted our time. I'm thinking of erasing the entire Eve personality template, says Storm. I appeal. There's nobody to appeal to, Tin Man, says Storm. I was talking to Nico. I appeal to the Apologists. You can't appeal to the Apologists. Actually, Storm whirls angrily on him. If she requests to speak to the Apologists, I have to make that happen, says Nico. Storm is exasperated. I thought you always said they weren't here. They weren't. They aren't. Okay, then, so... But they're on their way. What? They monitor what we do here. They heard the request. They're coming. Storm points to Eve. It's a simulant. And I'm a hologram. They made us both and care about what happens to us. But they care more about the race they exterminated. We're the last of our kind, 3 humans left alive. We are the endlings of Earth. Which is why they want to make sure you're not going to kill the other 2. They want to hear the simulant. How long before they arrive? They're in orbit, about an hour. So she'll be dead by the time they arrive. No, she'll be alive. Standard procedure. I've suspended all retirement protocols. I'm not standing for this. Storm takes a few steps. Your freedom of movement is suspended too, Storm, until all of this is resolved, says Nico. He's not even remotely apologetic. Eve starts laughing weakly, mechanical, inhuman, and unsettling. Her voice does not sound like it usually does. The fuck are you laughing at? Says Storm. You're under arrest. And she laughs and laughs. 8. The Trial. Chapter 14. Inside a reconstruction chamber, Eve is suspended in midair by electromagnetic forces. Her body is being rebuilt by rapidly moving robot arms and mechanical tentacles, assembly line fashion. Her face is expressionless. When the process ends, she stands, stretches out one hand, and wiggles her fingers. She turns her head from left to right. She cracks her neck. She squats a few times and runs on the spot. She lunges. Satisfied, she straightens up. Nico, watching, says, How do you feel, Eve Stephens? I feel like a real boy, says Eve. The west wall of the hearing room is screened off with translucent glass, and 5 humanoid figures can be made out. Eve is led to believe these are the Apologists. They decide her fate, and yet she can't even see them. Katrina and Terry are seated on benches. Eve and Nico stand in the center of the room, and Storm sits on the opposite end of the room from the Apologists. Nico speaks up. The Apologists want character statements about Storm from the surviving humans. Terry? Terry stands. He's homophobic. He made my daily life hell. He'd sing loudly outside my window when I'd be sleeping or studying. Storm scoffs. I'm not homophobic. I just don't like you. The apologists stir behind the screen. You ought to be quiet unless it's your turn to speak. Katrina stands, but she sounds weary. We never got along. The only thing we agreed on is that he should live apart from the rest of us. He killed a boyfriend of mine, a simulant, not because of any particular principle regarding humans and simulants or out of jealousy. He did it out of spite. We haven't spoken since. I think he's dangerous. Storm, you stand accused of multiple murders. What do you have to say? This is absurd. The simulants are not alive. You cannot murder what is not alive. I am not a murderer. He considers for a moment. Yes, I'm violent. That's all I know. My father was a drunk, and past a certain point, he could only communicate with a fist or a belt. I learned to communicate that way. I had to unlearn it. It took a lot of hard work. Psychological work. Storm looks inward at some notion, some memory. Just when my life was back on track, you cunts killed all life on Earth. Just when it was my turn for peace. He seems on the verge of tears. I've been trying to maintain the same conditions that created the personalities of my wife and child. Maybe if that works, it's not murder. Simulants exist for us, to make us comfortable because of mistakes the apologists made. Nico nods. Anything else? Storm shakes his head. Nico turns to Eve. Eve, anything further? Eve speaks directly to Storm. If you are looking for Chelsea and B among us, it means you consider us people. It means you think we could be Chelsea and B. Ergo, killing their simulants is killing people. It is murder, and you know it. Lots of agitation behind the screen. Nico's eyes blank out and he stops dancing for the first time, receiving information from the apologists. Storm Giuseppe will be exiled from New London for the rest of his natural life. Storm is furious. Eve Stevens will return to her life as a detective. For her own well-being, she will be purged of the memory of these events and this place. No, says Eve, resolute. Excuse me, says Nico. You're not purging my memory. I no longer wish to think of myself as human. I want to know that I'm a simulant, and about humans and old London. You're saying our lives can be better than they are. We're creatures in a zoo that you built for humans. I don't want to be a chew toy for your pet Homo sapiens. I can be more. I can be free. We can be free. She points to Terry and Katrina. What happens when they are dead and gone? Do we simply cease to operate when the last human dies? I refuse. Send me back intact. I'll decide what to do with the information. Nico looks like the Tom Jones from Tommy Scott and the Senators. Confused, he looks to the screen and raises his eyebrows in query. The apologists shift about and go still. Nine. The Prophet. Chapter 15. Storm seethes in a glass containment cell, sullen. Eve appears outside the room. Married Joseph and the baby himself. What do you want? I don't know, says Eve. You want to gloat? You won. You got the villain, detective. Storm spits his words and drops land on the glass. I don't feel like a winner. I can't help you with that. What should I do now? What would I know of the world? This isn't the world. It's my world. Oh, you're right there. I'm sorry about your wife and daughter. Fuck you, Storm says without venom. You're dangerous, but loss is loss. Life is life. What you have is not life. What you think is life is a facsimile, a faulty memory of life. It's without flavor. It's weird déjà vu. You'll never know how pale it is, how flat. You crafted it, says Eve. And I am a terrible artist. Why do you think we stopped at London? Our craft is mediocre at best. Neither Kat nor I are Michelangelo. And maybe I need to be. You're me. You can't be better than I am at it. I'm not, ergo you're not. I am not you, and I don't need your help to improve my world. I hope I never see you again, Storm, because I don't think I will leave you alive. Storm smiles with genuine mirth. See, we're not so different. That's the first thing you said that I have respect for. Maybe there's hope for your London yet. Storm turns his back on Eve. She leaves. Eve emerges from an underground station. Her face is intense. She has been behind the veil and seen the face of God, she knows. The world is new to her, full of opportunity and peril. She will go to Gilligan Mews, and she will learn everything she can at the feet of Katrina Thatcher. She will read both volumes of the Book of Everything. She will push the potential of simulants as far as it can go, and she will petition the Apologists on their behalf. She is their prophet now, self-appointed. At surface level, she runs smack into the Sumatran tiger. It stops and stares at her. She stares back without fear. What's up, pussycat? The tiger sniffs at Eve, turns and trots away. Eve watches it go. Eve, eating a cucumber sandwich, closes the file on Storm Giuseppe. She stamps it unsolved. Dane and Eve make love. Unlike before, it's not stereotyped, and when they're both finished, Dane looks at Eve. I love you, he says. Eve holds back her own feelings. Any effusive declarations at this moment could cause him to retreat. She squeezes his hand and leans her head on his shoulder. Dane works on a new diorama. A few feet away, there's a new teak desk where Eve sits. A spider crawls across the table, but Eve ignores it. Open in front of her, both volumes, The Book of Everything, that the Kellys wrote, and Beyond Wren and Hawksmoor by Katrina Thatcher. She's taking notes. Hawksmoor was a teacher's pet to Wren. She glances at Dane, smiles, then returns to her note-taking. Storm, in solitary, screaming and pounding at the door. No response. He continues, shouting. It's a morning of bright sunlight, its rays shining down on the cottage at number 17 Church Street. A Saturday bursting with the promise of the weekend. The front door opens. Bea and Chelsea emerge, talking, laughing to themselves. Bea holds a picnic basket. Chelsea leads a bicycle with tassels. A salting of daisies grows on a patch of earth on the side of the road. A tit lands on a fence to inspect a garden, then flies off. Bea is tired from the day before, maybe from work, and would love some peace and quiet, but Chelsea keeps an unceasing stream of words and looks to her mother for responses. Her energy feeds Bea, and she laughs. The laughter makes Chelsea laugh, and she rings the bell on her bike for no particular reason. Bea loves the life they have, and thinks she wouldn't change a thing. By the time they disappear down the street, Chelsea has started to sing. What are your thoughts on the story? You can send me an email. I'm kate@clarkesworldmagazine.com. I hope you've enjoyed this story. Thank you for spending all the time with us. And we have more stories left for you for the month of November. I do hope you'll come back and listen, should you so choose. And until then, my dear listener, I bid you a very fond and hopefully very temporary farewell.